recording. Yep. Hello, everyone. My name is Caden Howlett. I am a geologist, and I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Arizona. If you've been on the channel before, you might know that I study the origins of mountain belts. I study broadly plate tectonics, the behavior of the outermost shell of the planet Earth. And I guess the purpose of today's video, which will be, if all goes according to plan, my first tutorial, it goes beyond just being a tutorial. If you need to create a decent looking hillshade in a GIS software, it might be helpful. But I think for me, the primary purpose of this video is to show you that even though my science and the science of my colleagues and my friends revolves around really huge questions about the Earth's surface, there's a lot of behind the scenes skills that we acquire addressing these questions. And one of them that I'm really passionate about is GIS, Geographic Information Sciences. Simply, this can be thought of as cartography, map making. And there's a lot more to it other than that, but almost every geologist I know has a deep appreciation for maps and the map making process. And so I'm gonna give a tutorial in ArcGIS Pro today of how I say I'm making figure 1 for a manuscript. I'm gonna show you how I would get data off of the internet, open, available to everyone, bring it into a software, and then manipulate it so that it looks better. And the demonstration is just that there are creative aspects of becoming a geologist that you might not know about. And I want to do my best to communicate that because there's so many rich opportunities awaiting you if you are trying to figure out whether or not you should become a geoscientist or not, regardless of the subdiscipline. So with that preamble, I am going to share my screen down here and we are going to go get some DEM data off of a website. Okay, so here we are. I'm literally on my home page. I'm going to take us to Google. There might be some geologists out there who don't know where to get good small scale digital elevation model data, say SRTM data. So I'm going to look up, you'll see it in my SRTM data download. You'll see it in my history here. I guess before I even start talking about acquiring this stuff, SRTM stands for Shuttle Radar Topography Mission. This was a mission that took place aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour. This was in early 2000, so a long time ago. One of the coolest NASA missions ever, in my opinion. If you haven't read about SRTM, go check it out. Generally speaking, this mission gave us 1 arcsecond or 30 meter resolution of topography data over 80% of Earth's surface. And so this is extremely valuable to people who are interested in the topographic expression of mountain building and also just obviously all the topography on the continents. How could you not love it? And so there's this awesome website. You see the 4th thing down here. I found this, someone did this external to NASA, I believe. Shout out to Derek Watkins, who created these tiles and compiled them. He created this interface using Mapbox. What we're going to do is we're going to come in here and I have an area of interest. I'm going to grab a couple DEMs, North 47, West 113. So you can see I'm just downloading the DEM here. And it's going to open, it's going to be in a zipped folder. So I'm going to extract this. And for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to put stuff in my downloads folder, just so we're not getting too complicated. There, so our first DEM's in. I'm going to grab the westward adjacent DEM as well, North 47, West 114. And I'm interested in this area and these series of tiles because it's near my home in Polson, Montana. And it's also has really interesting topography. So I just put both of those, these are all available to you on your internet connection, so to speak. And now we're in ArcGIS Pro. And this is a software that is licensed by the university. Maybe you use QGIS. There are free versions of similar softwares. And at least when we get to creating a nice looking DEM, the same kind of general map approach will be there, just buttons in different places, basically. So the first thing I'm going to do here, this is just a little project I made for this tutorial. I'm going to add our data, and I'm already in my downloads, and this is really disorganized, but I'm going to grab both of our tiles, and I'm going to open these guys. We're going to build pyramids. Don't worry about this step. Some raster stuff. And here we are. Look at how cool that is. So that fast, I got raw .hgt files. This is the file format for SRTM data. And you can see we have two tiles here. And these are the ones I selected directly adjacent to one another. And the first thing I want to do is I want to make one mosaicked raster. And this is something that we deal with a lot. In my experience, and I might be getting a little into the weeds here, whenever I have a geologic field area of interest, whether it's some raster data or geologic maps or whatever I'm bringing in, my field area always seems to end up at the four corners of where these things come together. So I have to bring in multiple tiles, and they're much easier and more efficiently handled if they're a single raster. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go Alt-Q, and I recently searched this. You can see we're going to use a mosaic to new raster. Very simply, the only options for our input rasters are the ones that we have open in the project. For the output location, I'm going to put it in my downloads just because that's where my other stuff is. I'm going to call this mosaic dem.tif, which is a common file extension for digital elevation models. I'm familiar with these kinds of data, so I'm going to change this to 16-bit unsigned because I know that that's in the metadata, and that is the format of these tiles. And these are rasters with one band, so I got to specify that it's required. And then I'm going to run this mosaic, and you can see it running down there in the bottom right. And we're going to create one raster, and that's what we just did. So I'll turn it off. You'll see underneath we have our two tiles, and in fact I'm going to select those, and I'm just going to get them out of here. Clean. Maybe I'll rename this and just call it Montana DEM. Sweet. You can see our elevation across this whole area ranges from about 1 to 3 kilometers above sea level, shown in the contents panel. And now we're looking at something pretty nice. But if we're making a figure or looking at this, especially from an oblique angle in a later stage of analysis, it can look a lot better. And here's where we get into the tutorial. Maybe I'll have a timestamp for anyone who's actually interested in these map techniques. But if you're staying with me, we're going to do a little bit of surface analysis here. So I'm going to come in to this analysis bar here. And we're going to open raster functions. And this is where you start to see, I mean, you can only imagine how many different things are possible with such a software. Down here at the very bottom, we have surface, and I'm going to create a hillshade. And this is remarkably simple compared to some of the analysis I could be doing. But I'm just inputting my raster. I'm not changing any of the defaults. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a hillshade, and it's going to put it on top of our DEM. And you'll notice a change immediately. So probably looks like a hillshade you've seen in the past. However, we can use these different, surfaces in combination to make something that looks a lot better. And I'll say right now that we're working at an extremely small scale, and it's kind of counterintuitive, but what that means is we're looking at a large area of Earth's surface. This is really good for SRTM data because it's only 30-meter resolution, and that is very coarse compared to, say, the 1/3 arcsecond data that you might be using from the USGS. And you can see that when you zoom in here, like if you're mapping a really small area, this is not going to be good enough. It's really coarse looking, but if we're doing regional tectonics and an overview of the thrust belt here, which is shown broadly as we transition into the Great Plains from west to east here. This is adequate. And that being said, we're going to make this look a little better. And just to keep track of all of this stuff, I'm just going to call this Hillshade for simplicity. And we're going to come into raster layer. I like to put the Hillshade at about 60% transparency. And you can see, like, you can start to see that's the full DEM underneath. And you can see adjusting the transparency, it really starts to bring out some of the ridges and some of the topography, especially if we come into more intense stuff. So we're just looking for a sweet spot. Obviously, that's our DEM. You can see what I'm talking about. Like, man, it's starting to bring some energy here. So I'll change this to 60. It's already looking better, in my opinion. Already getting closer to a figure 1. But there's something else we can do. And that is a slope. And it's going to be basically the same approach. We're going to come into analysis, raster functions, and we're going to build a slope. We're going to put it on our original DEM, or it'll be weird. Create new layer. And this is going to look really crazy. And the reason this is so dark is because over in the contents, you can see our steepest slopes are lighter in color. So since this map has a lot of area that isn't very steep or high slope, it's really dark. It's dominated by black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this. I'm going to invert the color scheme, and you'll see this creates something that by itself looks pretty dang cool. I'll close out of here. Yeah, you can see, like, this is bringing out a lot more topography, but what I tend to do with the slope is I'll turn the transparency way up on that, something to closer to 80 or 85. And it might not seem like a lot, but if you're working at larger scales, it's a lot. So, I mean, that's really what I wanted to show you guys, is like, I'm just grabbing these data from the internet and I'll turn off what I had manipulated. Looks fine, but I think what I did makes this look a lot better. And the last thing I'll show you is that you can really bulk these things up and make them look like frickin' Nat Geo. If you come into these color schemes and we're showing names, you'll see that we have designated color schemes for elevation data. I really like elevation 12. I use this quite a bit. And you can adjust different stretch types and different min and max values to manipulate the way this looks. But you can see we're starting to create a map that's really effectively showing flat topography with a little bit of fluctuation from high peaks in white. And that is representing higher elevations. So, you know, that's pretty cool. And when it comes to map making, like, when you get a feel for this kind of stuff, I'll show you, we're in map view now, but maybe I'm just interested in creating a layout. So this is an 8.5 by 11, picture it as a piece of paper. I'll make a map frame, and what this map frame is going to be showing is the extent of our elevation data. So that's pretty cool already. I might move this around a little bit in my layout view just for visualization purposes. I'll come in, close my activation, and then, like, now I would add reference layers to this, like rivers, bodies of water, roads, major cities maybe, or any other kind of data that you're interested in for the purpose of this map. But, you know, like really fast examples of putting in a scale bar, not paying much attention to proximity or like map making type of stuff. But like a legend is another example of like how we can communicate this elevation. I'll turn off a few things I don't want in here. But then if we zoom in on this, and I would change the formatting extremely, but you know, now we're communicating that our lighter colors are approaching 3 kilometers above sea level, and our lowest elevations are around 1 kilometer. So that's just fine. And you know, like I could go on all day. Maybe I need that long in here, right? Like there are just simple things. And you get an eye. This is why the creative part of this is so fun, is because you develop an eye for like, damn, all that is way too tightly spaced grid for the purposes of my map. In fact, I don't even think I need a grid. So maybe I'll open this grid lines, see you later. And maybe something more relevant would be like intersection points. And so you can see now I have intersection points for lat and long, and I would still make that interval much greater. But yeah, that's just to show that we're creating maps out here, and you can, once you get a feel for it, you can do it fast, and you can really like get absorbed by this stuff. And I'm passionate about it, and hopefully it was kind of fun just to see like an interface of a GIS software. If that's new for you, look into GIS. Maybe a good starting point would just be to look at the Wikipedia for SRTM, Shuttle Radar Topography Mission, widely underappreciated. But I knew that was going to be fun, and it was for me, and hopefully it was at least interesting for you. I might do more stuff like this in the future if it's well received, but to be completely honest with you, I just thought this would be fun, and I know that there are some people out there who are interested in topography, GIS, who isn't interested in topography. But yeah, I'm going up to Montana in a few days, so this is perfect. Get me reoriented. I'm heading north. But that's all, everybody. And we're out here December of 2023 in the Sonoran Desert. It's wonderful. I've been on the computer for a couple hours. I'm going outside. I hope you guys can go outside today. And I appreciate you giving this little chunk of time to me. And hopefully you learned something. And I hope that you can come back or check out the existing, more field-oriented stuff on my channel. And with that, I thank you. See you soon. Ciao.